Sheldon coaching pretty good out there, isn't he?
Yeah, and they've got a good team, and they got the goalie in the off season. Then some of their team, Dougie Hamilton being back now healthy, it does make a difference. They're a pretty big D. They've got skill up front. Obviously, a lot of things to like about that team. So they're going the right direction. And trust me, I played for both the Islanders and the Rangers. You look around. You're always looking as a member of any of those three teams how the other teams are doing. You did not want to lose or be trumped by the other two in that community. And right now, it is definitely the Rangers that are, what have they got, 4 wins in their last 16 or something?
It hasn't been good.
Like, they're better than that. That team is better than that. Even if you just look at the goaltender itself, the goaltender is way better than that. I'm not blaming it on him, but just he alone should win you more than 4 games out of that stretch.
You would think that it would be the case. On the gridiron, though, there was a story that broke yesterday prior to the Week 16 slate. Apparently, Josh Allen's been playing this season with a broken hand. How much more impressive do you guys find the year he's having, an MVP-worthy season, knowing that he's been doing it with a broken hand?
Well, it's not his throwing hand.
It's not, but still, I mean, for a guy who tucks the ball and runs as much as he does, and the fact that he's able to stay in there and take shots in the pocket, exposing that hand, exposing himself to injury, and still be able to do what he's been able to do is still pretty impressive to me.
Oh, it's incredibly impressive. I mean, I guess it depends on where it's broken, how much a little shot from, as they call him, Dr. Needle, makes it feel better during game time here, because we know the NFL is famous for a little injectable before game time. But, look, I mean, Josh Allen's been impressive in so many different ways, and this just adds to the legend, I guess.
Yeah, I'm not building a statue because he's playing with a broken hand and is not throwing hand, but I liked him before. I think he's a great player. He's a leader for that team. And now, for him, I think to go to the next level of, I don't know if you call it superstar, he's got to win a Super Bowl, right? That's what the biggest guys in the biggest moments find a way to get it done. And it's not going to be easy. Not disregard the broken hand, but just the team they have and some of the teams they have to get through or beat. I mean, Patrick Mahomes doesn't look too bad either on the other side. And he was playing with what to look to be a pretty sprained ankle to me.
Oh, yeah, he's been dealing with the injuries. You know what I like about yesterday? Like, the Bills, they escaped with a narrow victory over the Patriots. They were supposed to absolutely wallop this team. I think the spread was like 14 points in this game. It was supposed to decimate them, and they only win by a field goal. But what I like about it is it showed that they could still win those games where they shouldn't win, but they still kind of sneak them out. And that's what Patrick Mahomes and the Chiefs have been able to do all year. Like, there's been a lot of games where the Chiefs is one play going the other way from losing the game. And somehow they've been able to rattle off at 13, 14 in one season, near perfect season. And the fact that the Bills were able to kind of have that game last night, they didn't bring their A game, probably not their B game, maybe not even their C game, but was still able to get it done and just scrape by and get the victory and keep themselves in contention, keep spirits high, and still win the game. I did think it was kind of important and something that you could pull from if you're the Bills.
Kind of reminds me of Hayes and Bro, the way you guys have soldiered on through adversity this season.
I would like to think that I am the Josh Allen of Hayes and Bro. Yes, exactly. I would like to. Oh, by the way, I don't know. So I wanted to be on the Ravens yesterday, and the Ravens Saturday, they ended up absolutely walloping the Steelers. Yeah. And Jonas, your good friend Jonas, somehow played tiebreaker between Hayes and I because we were split 50-50 and convinced Hayes to take the Steelers and the points. He got bet up to a 7-point spread. They got dummied by 17 points. It was Baltimore all the way. So Hayes and Bro, we're a little tizzy today after him going over the top there. But we got to pick. We got to make a pick tonight. We got the Monday Nighter. So Saints and Packers. And this one's going to be ugly. This is another massive spread, too. It's a 14.5-point spread. I don't know who's playing for the Saints, though. Like, their quarterback isn't Jake Hayner. Is starting at quarterback. No Alvin Kamara. The receiving core is decimated. This one's going to be an absolute blowout. But, Luke Wilson's going to join us at 5. We'll get his thoughts on the game. But right now, I think this is going to be an absolute blowout for the Green Bay Packers. We're leaning Pack.
Okay.
We're leaning Pack.
Well, you got a dome team from the South playing in, I would assume, very chilly conditions up in Wisconsin there. So it does kind of line up, but 14.5 is no small number.
It's not a small number, but I just don't know if the Saints are going to put up points. Who's going to score on this offense? Nobody. Like, Jordan Love could still put up points, and this offense is still pretty good in Green Bay. I just think they're going to end up winning by like 30.
Yeah, well, it's possible. What about the Raiders getting that all-important win yesterday? As a Giants fan,
man.
I've never cheered so hard for the Raiders in my life to have them get that win, because I want to clean house in New York. I want the first pick overall, but to win that game, like I get you have to try. I get all that stuff, but come on.
Well, Antonio,
you don't want to win that game.
Antonio Pierce says he doesn't care about the first overall pick. He wants to win, and that's the thing. I mean, you know that, Strata. You've been in the room. The players and coaches, they don't care what the public perception. They want to win hockey games. They want to win football games. That's exactly what they did yesterday with a win over the Jacksonville Jaguars, who are the same boat. Both these clubs looking to lose as many games as possible. So one of them had to win, and turned out to be Aiden O'Connell and the Raiders. But here's the thing, Strud. Like, you talk about being excited about it as a Jets fan. It's not a good quarterback class. That's the problem with this one.
Giants fan.
Giants fan.
That's just disrespectful. I can't stand the Jets and that disaster.
Yeah, that's also a disaster.
I believe that Arch Manning comes in next year, does he not? Isn't he draft eligible?
He's draft eligible next year. Yeah, he can declare. Yeah.
So this is my fantasy as a Giants fan. We get the pick, we trade it. We're just horrendous next year. Then we bring back the nephew of the greatest quarterback that New York has ever seen, Eli Manning, to lead us to the promised land for the next 10 years. And then I sail into my joy. Just so happy to have Arch Manning.
Hey, that could be the plan. That might be the plan, because that's not a good ball team out there either. They got stummied by the Falcons, too, over the weekend. Yeah, it's not a good football scene in New York. Not a good hockey scene in New York right now.
Well, the entire state of New York. The Sabres are terrible.
The Sabres. Who's got it worse, the Sabres or the Rangers right now?
I think it's the Sabres, Strud. I mean, they haven't been to the playoffs going on 14 years. They're not making it this year. I mean, it's as grim as it can be. And
what are they at? How many lost?
13?
12?
Was that 13 or 12?
12. I don't know. I've lost track. I mean, I tell you what, though.
I hate to look.
I've been down in Buffalo recently, and I grew up in the area. I used to go to a lot of Sabres games as a kid. There's zero talk about the Sabres. Like, people have just forgotten about them. It's the team you do not talk about in Western New York, because the Bills are so good, and people have just decided, you know what? Yeah, let's just wake us up when you actually are respectable again, and then we'll become a hockey town again. But right now, it's a football city, and they've just forgotten about hockey.
It's been a decade since that team has been relevant, since they made the playoffs. Was it 2013? 2011?
Yeah, it's crazy.
I think 2011 was the last time that team made the playoffs. So
14 years in 2025.
It's tough. I was talking with I'm in that area too a lot. I was talking with a season ticket holder, and he's contemplating giving up his seats for next year. The apathy has set in, and that's the worst for a fan base. Once apathy sets in and people don't care about you, it's tough. And it's absolute blues right now. No team, I think, in professional sports is excited for this Christmas break than the Buffalo Sabres. Get home, relax, and maybe come back rejuvenated and try and get that first win when you come back, and all will be forgotten, perhaps. You can start the new year off on a positive note. That's where you got to be if you're the Buffalo Sabres. Just absolutely ecstatic that the new year and the Christmas break is here. All right, we got a packed show today. Luke Wilson going to join us at 5:05. We got picks to make. Chris Johnston going to join us also at 6:05. And Keegan Matheson, an interesting interview done with Vladimir Guerrero Jr. And we'll touch on that and his apparent contract demands and where the negotiations are at. We'll chat about that with Keegan at 6:30. I'm Mike DiStefano with Jason Strudwick and with Dave Feschuk. You're listening to Overdrive on TSN 1050 and up on TSN Plus.
Leafs facing center crisis amid injuries, eyeing trade market for solutions. As the Toronto Maple Leafs battle through a growing injury list and a suspension, their lack of depth at the center position has become a glaring issue. According to Sportsnet's Elliot Friedman in his latest 32 Thoughts article, the Leafs are among the teams exploring trade options to bolster their lineup. This effort is coming amid increasing competition from teams like the Chicago Blackhawks and Nashville Predators, who have also set their sights on improving their center depth. Friedman didn't mince words about the Leafs' predicament. The teams currently focusing on centers, including Chicago and Nashville, must consider when others will enter the market. Toronto will undoubtedly be one of those teams, he wrote. While the Blackhawks and Predators may have an edge in terms of cap space and assets, the Leafs remain a team to watch as the season progresses. The Leafs situation is urgent, with up to 7 forwards currently unavailable due to injury or suspension. Ryan Reeves is serving a 5-game suspension, while key players like Auston Matthews, upper body, Matthew Knies, upper body, Kalle Jarnkrok, groin/sports hernia, David Kampf, lower body, Max Domi, lower body, and Max Pacioretty, lower body, are all sidelined. The team has even considered temporarily shifting Mitch Marner to the center position, highlighting the severity of their depth issues. This isn't just a short-term concern for the Leafs. Depth at center has been a persistent challenge for the team, and while stopgap solutions like Marner could help in the interim, the front office appears keen to explore longer-term fixes. For fans of the blue and white, this has been a recurring theme. The Leafs' center depth often becomes a problem at the worst possible times. James Mirtle of The Athletic recently added more fuel to the speculation, naming several potential trade targets who could help the Leafs address their issues. Among them is Ryan O'Reilly, a familiar name for Toronto fans. O'Reilly, who signed a 4-year, $18 million deal with Nashville in 2023, might be a trade candidate if the Predators' underwhelming start to the season, 6-11-3, 31st in the league, prompts a rebuild. However, his steep price tag and history with the Leafs, including rejecting a free agency offer less than 2 years ago, make this a complex and potentially unlikely move. Other names mentioned by Mirtle include former Leaf Nazem Kadri, currently with Calgary, as well as players like Michael Granlund, Nick Jugstad, Brock Nelson, Yanni Gourde, Trent Frederic, Radek Faksa, and Sean Kuraly. While some of these options seem more plausible than others, it's clear that general manager Brad Treliving will need to get creative to find the right piece without mortgaging the team's future. Cap space remains one of the biggest obstacles for the Leafs. Unlike teams like Chicago and Nashville, which have more flexibility and assets, Toronto is walking a financial tightrope. As Friedman noted, competition will intensify as cap-constrained teams strive to create room. For the Leafs, that could mean waiting for the market to develop further, a risky move given their current needs. The situation also highlights the Leafs' ongoing struggle to build a roster that can withstand the grueling nature of an NHL season. Injuries are an inevitability in hockey, but Toronto's current predicament underscores the importance of depth, a quality the team has struggled to consistently maintain. Looking back on recent years, the Leafs have often leaned heavily on their star players, particularly Matthews, Marner, and William Nylander. While these players have delivered in spades, the lack of reliable depth options has left the team vulnerable in critical moments. The current crisis at center is merely the latest example of this recurring issue. Some fans have called for more aggressive moves from Treliving, arguing that now is the time to strike while the team's core is in its prime. Others, however, are more cautious, pointing to the dangers of overpaying for short-term fixes. Striking the right balance will be key, especially as the Leafs aim to keep their championship window open. Despite the challenges, there's no denying that Toronto has the talent to be a contender, provided they can patch up their lineup. The ongoing rumors and speculation surrounding potential trades show that the Leafs are at least exploring every avenue to strengthen their roster. For fans of the blue and white, this moment feels like a pivotal point in the season. With a lineup ravaged by injuries and a tough schedule ahead, the Leafs must act decisively to avoid falling behind in the standings. The addition of a dependable center could be the difference between weathering the storm or watching another season slip away. Whether it's O'Reilly, Kadri, or another surprise name, one thing is certain: the Leafs are under pressure to deliver. And for a fan base as passionate and loyal as Toronto's, there's no room for excuses. The time to act is now, and Leafs Nation is watching closely. As the trade deadline approaches, the stakes couldn't be higher. Will Treliving pull off a move that solidifies the Leafs' status as a contender, or will the search for center depth become yet another chapter in the team's long history of what-ifs? Only time will tell, but one thing's for sure, it's never boring in Leafs land. As the Maple Leafs navigate this critical juncture, their fan base remains as vocal as ever. Toronto is a city that breathes hockey, and the pressure on Brad Treliving to make the right moves is immense. Every decision he makes, or doesn't make, will be scrutinized, from talk radio to social media, where Leafs Nation is already debating the merits of the various names being floated as potential trade targets. Among the louder debates is whether the team should prioritize a high-profile acquisition like Ryan O'Reilly or Nazem Kadri, or focus on a lower-cost, reliable center who can fill a supporting role without costing too many future assets. While O'Reilly's leadership and playoff experience make him an attractive option, his contract and recent history with the Leafs add layers of complexity to any potential reunion. Similarly, Kadri's gritty, two-way playstyle remains a fan favorite, but his cap hit and availability might render him an unrealistic target. Another factor complicating the Leafs situation is their tight salary cap. While Chicago and Nashville can make moves with relative ease due to their financial flexibility, Toronto must navigate a labyrinth of constraints to make any trade work. This likely means including salary retention or moving existing contracts to make room, which could drive up the cost of any potential deal. The question then becomes, how much are the Leafs willing to sacrifice to address their immediate needs? One potential trade partner generating buzz is the Seattle Kraken. Yanni Gourde, a dependable two-way center, has been mentioned as a possible target. Gourde's versatility and championship pedigree from his time with Tampa Bay make him an appealing option. Seattle, however, is in playoff contention and may not be inclined to part with a key piece unless the Leafs can provide a substantial return. Another intriguing name is Brock Nelson of the New York Islanders. Nelson is a consistent scorer and reliable faceoff-man, qualities that would undoubtedly bolster Toronto's center depth. However, the Islanders are notoriously cautious when it comes to trades, and prying Nelson away would likely require a significant package, including picks or prospects that the Leafs may be hesitant to part with. For all the trade talk, some analysts believe the solution might come from within. Sheldon Keefe has shown a willingness to experiment with his lineup, and players like Pontus Holmberg or Fraser Minton could be given an opportunity to step up. While relying on less experienced players carries risks, it might be the Leafs' only option if the trade market proves too costly or slow to develop. Adding to the Leafs' urgency is the timing. The Atlantic Division remains one of the toughest in the league, with teams like Boston, Florida, and Tampa Bay continuing to dominate. Any prolonged slump could see Toronto slip further down the standings, putting their playoff hopes in jeopardy. For a team with Stanley Cup aspirations, failing to address their weaknesses could have catastrophic consequences. Brad Treliving's history as a general manager suggests he's not afraid to make bold moves. His time with the Calgary Flames was marked by blockbuster trades, including the acquisition of Jonathan Huberdeau and Mackenzie Weegar in the Matthew Tkachuk deal. Leafs fans hope he brings that same decisiveness to Toronto, especially as the trade deadline looms. Beyond the immediate need for a center, this situation underscores a broader issue with the Leafs roster construction. Depth has been a perennial concern, and while Toronto boasts some of the league's top-end talent, their reliance on a handful of stars has left them vulnerable in moments like this. Moving forward, addressing this imbalance must be a priority for the front office if the team is to achieve sustained success. As the Leafs head into a critical stretch of the season, the next few weeks could define their trajectory.